In 1996, Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson completely flipped the horror world upside down with the release of Scream. This meta look at horror spawned so many ripoffs that it could almost be considered a genre all of its own. So it's no surprise that during production, a script was leaked onto the internet, which revealed very different killers to the ones that we'd eventually get. Yet, was this a leak, or was this part of the plan all along? Today on What the F Happened to this Unmade Horror Movie, we're looking at what could have been with the alternate version of Scream 2. This is one of my favorite stories in all of horror what-ifs. And there have been many different versions of said story out there, but my favorite is probably that the script leaked, so Williamson had to do a mad dash to completely rewrite it in only a matter of days. Do people not understand how productions usually work? Not to say that this isn't entirely possible, but I mean, come on. For many years, the legend that Williamson had to quickly do rewrites on the ending after it had leaked online before production had begun really prevailed on message boards. But in 2011, Williamson set the story straight, saying that the Hallie and Derek ending, as I'll call it from this point on, was one of the multiple dummy endings. See, after the massive success of the first film, both the studio and Williamson knew that they needed to closely guard the secret of the sequel's precious ending. So often, one of the dummy scripts would be sent out for someone to read. There even existed an ending where the beloved Dewey character was revealed to be the killer. Can you even imagine? But they're all just fake endings. But what exactly did that fake ending entail? Before we get into that, we must first break down the original ending of Scream 2 so that we can spot the differences. After Sydney has been taken into police custody, both the detectives watching over her and her roommate Hallie are killed. Sydney then finds herself in the auditorium with Ghostface. This is when Ghostface reveals himself to be Mickey, Sydney's classmate.
It's a classic case of life imitating art, imitating life.
This is not a hypothetical. It's not about art.
He's really messed in the head, and his reasoning is even more ridiculous.
Billy was a sick fuck who tried to get away with it. Mickey is a sick fuck who wants to get caught.
They even give us a nice little fake out where it seems like Gale Weathers is revealed to be the second killer, only for Debbie Salt to be behind it all. Now, who's Debbie Salt?
Mrs. Loomis?
Billy's mother!
Debbie shoots Mickey, pinning all the killings on him. He shoots Gale, effectively taking her out of the finale. What follows is a little showdown between Sydney and Mrs. Loomis, which finally ends when Cotton Weary grabs a gun and saves the day. I mean, kind of. He toys with the idea of letting Mrs. Loomis have her way, only for Sid to do this.
Bet you that Diane Sawyer interview's looking real good right about now.
Consider it done.
And the day is saved. Now that we know the actual ending, we can look further at the changed one. And it was actually slightly more than just a different ending. Even certain character beats were changed. Hallie was no longer in police custody with Sydney, and Dewey is seemingly off for real. They also made sure to add a scene with Ghostface killing off Mickey. But I feel like we need to examine this beat by beat, because holy hell is it convoluted. When Sydney comes to the theater, you know, like in the filmed version, she discovers the bodies of Dewey, Hallie, and Joel the cameraman, all strung up. Aw, poor Joel doesn't make it out of this one alive.
See ya, wouldn't want to be ya.
That's when we get a nice little fake out where it seems like Cotton Weary is revealed to be another killer, only for him to be tied up and asking Sid to untie him, which is finally when we get the reveal of killer number one, Sydney's boyfriend Derek. He appears and gives us a nice little Billy Loomis style monologue. And this is when we get the reveal of killer number 2. One of the supposedly dead bodies behind Sydney jumps to life, and we find out that Hallie was in on it the whole time. Things are very Scream 2022 at this point. See, Derek and Hallie met on a message board and decided that they wanted to make the greatest sequel of all time. A nice little throwback to the conversation in film class earlier in the movie.
Are you suggesting that someone's trying to make a real-life sequel?
Stab 2? Who'd want to do that? Sequels suck.
And have been on a path of destruction in order to achieve it. Aw, poor Sydney. After having her high school boyfriend betray her, now she has her college boyfriend do the same, with her roommate joining in as the cherry on top. God damn, this girl is gonna have some well-deserved PTSD. Derek and Hallie go on about how they're Mickey and Mallory from Natural Born Killers. I think this is Williamson having a bit of fun, since obviously Mickey is the actual killer's identity. But where it gets interesting is that they mention there's a whole message board of killers just like them. So it's not like it's just the two of them that want to see Sydney dead. And these two are so screwed in the head that they're actually hoping for the death penalty. To them, that's them winning. Then things go similar to how they do in the film. Debbie Salt, aka Mrs. Loomis, shows up holding Gale at gunpoint. Only there's no Mickey here to shoot, so instead, Debbie shoots both Derek and Hallie, with the same idea of her pinning the crimes on them. But Mrs. Loomis isn't around for long, as Cotton Weary breaks free of his bindings and stabs her dead. That's a lot of killers dying in a very short time span. Gale and Sydney are so thankful, with Gale giving Cotton a massive hug. And things get even more batshit insane here as Cotton stabs Gale in the back. She's full-blown dead. He says he can finally be the lead in his story, and yeah, he also has Fall Guys. We get an extended tussle between Cotton and Sydney, which ends up on the catwalk above the stage. They both stab each other and end up falling down and landing on the stage. They stare at each other as the film just ends. Okay then. I'm not going to say that there aren't some interesting ideas here. I mean, the concept of two killers wanting to make their own sequel was actually done in Scream 2022.
What about my ending?
So I kind of like that the concept appears here. But otherwise, everything is such a rush job, with nothing really able to breathe. Hallie and Derek just come across as maniacally bad. They're not even believable human beings at this point. Though I do think that not having Cotton as a killer at some point in the series was a huge missed opportunity. Otherwise, everything here really does just feel like Williamson having a bit of fun and not trying anything too serious. Oddly enough, Jerry O'Connell, aka Derek, had never actually heard anything of Derek supposedly being the killer, even stating, "I didn't know anything about that until after, like years after. Somebody told me, I think at a Comic-Con or something, because we never got the ending. When we first got the script, I got everything but the last 20 pages. I think they rewrote the ending. I'm not sure if it got leaked or what, but the script had a weird non-copyable pattern on it that you couldn't make Xerox copies of." So the fabled Derek and Hallie ending appears to be nothing more than a product of some shenanigans by the studio and Williamson to keep the identity of the killers a secret. I'd say that this is somewhat disappointing given how often it's been repeated over the years, but still interesting to see exactly how it would have been pulled off. As for the ending where Dewey ends up being the killer, that script has yet to leak in any significant way. Although there have been some pretty great fan theories about Dewey being a secret killer going all the way back to the first film. So check some of those out if you're interested in seeing Dewey in a bit of a darker light. I just miss the days when this kind of thing was even a possibility. Now we have Marvel with a full-blown security force making sure secrets don't get out.
Oh, so vulgar.
The Scream 2 that we got wasn't quite as well received as the first film, but it still managed to have quite the fan base throughout the years. Hell, there are many people that consider this their favorite behind the first, and I'm not sure that would be the case if we'd have gotten the ending with Hallie and Derek, because convoluted endings are rarely treated positively. I mean, just look at Scream 3.
Fine, you got what you wanted. Hero and villain face to face. Well, you know what happens now? The villain dies.
Exactly. But I'm not the villain, Sid. You are.
What do you think of this ending? Do you think that it's a fake script? Do you think that Williamson had to write it super fast and then release it? Do you think that this wasn't part of the plan at all and it's just the studio and Williamson making a very good excuse? Let us know in the comments below and we'll see you in the next one.
Billy was perfect. You did a bang-up job, Mrs. Loomis.
Not wise to patronize someone with a gun, Sydney.